Oh, God. Oh, let me just... Oh, getting the cans out already.
I am DJ, and with me tonight is...
Good old Jake again. Got my name right. Huzzah. Keep a poll of this. You know what I mean?
And welcome to another edition of Talking Bollocks!
Oh, bollocks.
Or as I like to call it, two guys, one mic.
Yeah, two guys who haven't decided on one name.
That's true, that. And that could be the next one. Two guys who haven't decided on one name. There you go.
No, let's not make the title too long.
Okie dokie.
Anyway.
Alright then.
Well, this time around, it's a very special one because I have actually come up with the topic myself.
Huzzah.
This time we're going to be talking about media adaptations, like when books get made into films or games or anything.
Basically take a topic and then put it in a different light in that sense, really.
Like a game based off a film or a film based off a game or anything like that.
So, alright then. So, shall we crack on then? Because we don't want to keep people waiting later. So, alright.
Yeah, says Mr. Late.
Mr. Late, yes, exactly. I've only just arrived myself, actually. Man, just been killing myself at the gym. That's all. So, anyway.
Anyway, so, yeah, why do media adaptations happen? Like, why do people make films that are based on popular books or games or the like?
Well, in a way, it's kind of like, they're trying a different form, like, as well as kind of trying to reach out to a broader audience in that sense. Like, I don't know, I mean, for anyone who's maybe as old as us, did you ever actually read Harry Potter when it first came out, for example? Like, when it
first came out, no.
Well, had you ever even heard of it until the actual movie?
I had seen a book cover, but I don't know. Guess it didn't really jump out at me.
Well, same here.
Then suddenly there was a film coming out, but that was the whole thing about hype. I just kind of wanted to avoid it because of this big hype train going on. But later on I saw what it was about, and before I knew what was going on, I have all 8 of the original films on Blu-ray and the audiobooks too.
Yeah, well, there you are, you see. I mean, before the films came out, it would have been just something that might have just, I don't know, been pushed under the carpet or loved by just the people who read it. And then, you know what I mean? And because of that, it's kind of become a huge success and, and all this, that, and the other. So I can see why they do it, but sometimes it's like, do they have the same drive, the same passion, the same, the same look in some senses, really? It's kind of like, how do they keep the spirit alive? Really?
I do kind of see what you're saying with, like, branching out to a broader audience. So it's like, say you've got a game that gets a film adaptation. Like, there's quite a few people who play games, but there's also quite a few people who just, like, avoid them. Some even demonize them, and it's just like...
God, yeah.
But, yeah, it's like, you release a film based on a game. Now, the audience who are most likely to go for that right away would be the ones who are fans of the game. But then they could tell people about it, and like even if they're not a fan of games, then they can
build up on that.
They could just like go in and be like, you know what? That was actually a pretty good film.
It can work in both ways, though, good, bad, and whatnot, because it's like, for example, you mentioned about games becoming movies and that. That's never a good thing. Not never, but in most cases, it's never a good thing. Like, case in point, what was his name now? What's that director called? Uwe Boll, that's it. Uwe Boll, that was his name. Basically, this guy is notorious for taking game licenses and making movies out of them, but he taxes them in some weird kind of German loophole or something like that. So even if the movie completely bombs, he still walks away quite rich because of it. So he puts no effort into his movies whatsoever. They're either really contrived, really horribly done, or just horrible to watch. And people absolutely hate him in every way, shape and form. But he still finds work. try and explain that one. He keeps finding work.
No. Yeah, he definitely doesn't sound like the kind of person who really cares much about the source material.
Well, not even that.
And with stuff like that, that is going to make these adaptations bad. But are they always bad?
Well, apparently they're kind of laughably bad in that sense, like
to
be so bad they're good.
I mean, adaptations in general, not just this Overbowl guy.
Well, all right. I'm trying to think, but yeah, it can lend itself well if it's done right. Like, for example, looking at your May figure up the top there on the mantelpiece, kind of reminds me Overwatch. Fantastic game. Played by loads of good people and loads of shit players, might I add. But it's still a good game, but it's like, can it adapt well into other things? Like, for example, I bought the graphic novel, the first anthology of it, right? And it gives you more insight into the characters, their days and routes, the actual characters themselves, and it's a genuinely good read. And I just think, yeah, you don't get that in the game because, well, in the game you're just trying to blow the living shite out of each other, so there's no time for story in that sense, or lore or anything, but they kind of build the lore, but they kind of leave it to other things to try and fill in the blanks in that sense, really.
Anyway, let's look at things that are, like, games that already have films. Like, I remember seeing the first Tomb Raider film.
Yeah.
That I thought that it was alright, but let's see, apparently the Dead or Alive theatrical release was not very good at all.
Never seen that one.
I'm not sure I've mentioned before on these casts, but the Super Mario Brothers movie. Yeah, I do remember saying that Shigeru Miyamoto denies its existence.
I've got it on DVD, remember? I'm going to have to show you at one point. It's fantastic.
I've already seen it.
It's fantastic how bad that is, but I get what you mean. It's kind of like, I mean, even James Rolfe, the AVGN, even he says that it was like, when that first came out, there were no other movies based on video games to kind of like compare it and contrast it. So, in a way, it kind of made a stepping stone, but not a very good one, a very wobbly one into that kind of medium. So it's kind of like,
yeah, it does seem like the film is important because it just like got a lot of other people looking at this really bad adaptation, being just like, I could do a better job than that, and they did. I mean, take a look at the Resident Evil movies. Not the live-action ones, the CG ones.
Right.
Those, the good ones.
yeah. And it kind
I've seen Degeneration and Damnation. And you know what? I just gotta tell you, it's just it's a feature length of my boy Leon being badass.
Yeah. And well, shall we move on through more of the topics then? And you wrote there when to take liberties. Well,
yeah, it's like,
kinda like,
yeah, one of these is when is it acceptable to take liberties with the source material, and when is it good to just like stick with it?
Well, let's move on to one of everyone's favourite kind of things, live-action anime remakes. Can you, like, one that's really buzzing in my head is Dragon Ball Evolution.
I knew it. It's always going to be Dragon Ball Evolution.
But
I was thinking for once you were going to say Death Note.
Well, I haven't watched Death Note. That's the thing. So
why not?
I haven't yet because I haven't got round to actually reading or anything of it yet. I know of it. It's just sitting down and doing it. It's my thing. You know what I mean, is it on Netflix by any chance?
The live-action film is, and so is the anime.
Oh, there you go. Well, obviously the anime is most probably.
Oh, the anime is amazing.
Well, there you are. You see. But I know I keep harping on about Dragon Ball Evolution. It's the one I know because I have watched a lot of the series and grown up with it, so I know what they're getting at. But when you take something quite big like Dragon Ball and try and, like knock it down to about an hour and a half for a movie or 2 hours or something, it's kind of like they did take liberties, but they didn't take enough of them. Or I think they overtook a lot of them because you got your bare bones basics, you've got your character names, you've got little references to the anime, and that's it. Like, literally, that is it. The story is the most blasé thing imaginable. It's very like, I don't know, they just go, let's go the most westernized route imaginable. And it's kind of like East versus West. It's kind of like, like, you know, with the anime itself, like the movies that they do for that, like, not the live action ones, I'm talking like Resurrection of F, The Revenge of Cooler, The World's Strongest, stuff like that. They kind of like, alright, it's not in continuity but at all, but it kind of like, you get what they're getting at about it, really.
Well, Resurrection F and Battle of Gods are actually part of... It's like they're part of the main timeline continuity because of Dragon Ball Super. But, of course, the Dragon Ball Super episodes tell the story in a different way than the films do. And that is something that leaves me thinking that it is okay to take liberties with the source material. It's like, okay, be faithful to it first and foremost, but, like, take liberties when there are things that wouldn't really translate well to a different medium for some reason. Like, you play Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
You go swimming in these really deep waters and, yeah, your oxygen bar goes down to 0 and then that starts depleting your health. And it's like, yeah, that goes down to 0, you drown. But if you keep using medipacks to build your health up, you can still go on for as long as you manage to get to the surface.
It's a glitch, I swear.
Or until you just like run out of medipacks and drown.
Yeah.
Now, how would you actually put that into film? This is an example.
That would be funny as hell to watch.
And there's like breaking away from games and anime into film for a bit. What about one of my favourite stories of all time, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
Ah, yeah.
Yep,
so movie adaptations as well.
That's a movie adaptation of the original story by Roald Dahl. Now, in the 1971 film...
With Gene
Wilder, yeah.
I was about to say Gene
man.
Hackman then.
Gene Wilder he was an awesome Willy Wonka.
Terrifying but amazing at the same time.
It's like the Oompa Loompas were changed from being like pygmies in the original book, but then the Oompa Loompas were changed from being pygmies in different editions of the original book as well, you know, to avoid like any racial insensitivity.
Yeah, stuff like that.
And of course, the Oompa Loompa songs weren't as long in the 1971, but then along comes Tim Burton, and he makes his own version with Johnny Depp as Willy Wonka, and it is like so much darker and
a lot more twisted,
and actually a lot more true to the original story,
I suppose. But at the same time, it's like he followed it to the letter, which is nice. And I kind of get what Tim Burton's about sometimes. It's like, I don't hate... It's not that I'm hating on him or anything. It's just that when you've seen his style in a lot of ways, it's kind of like, you think, oh, you know, I mean, it's twisted and it's weird. Yeah, there you go, that's Tim Burton. But I don't know, I'm just kind of thinking, when he does his own thing, it feels a lot more, I don't know, it feels a bit more fresh. Saying that, though, one of my favourite movies by him is the 1989 Batman, so it's kind of weird. It's a weird mishmash when it comes to Tim Burton. It's kind of like, I get what he's talking about, but at the same time, it's like, you know, I just think there's something a bit off about this, even if it is supposed to be weird and dark, and it's kind of, I don't get it. It's not that I don't get it, I mean, it's more that I try to understand it, but at the same time, something is knocking me off or something about it. I'm trying to explain it in a sense. I love him, don't get me wrong, I love his work, I love everything about him. It's just sometimes some of his adaptations can be a bit, you know what I mean?
Well, it's not like Burton always stays completely faithful to the source material, because going back to his version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, he also mixes in elements from Charlie and the Great
Glass Elevator.
Yeah.
There you go.
You've been doing all this talking, I finally get a chance to talk, and I fucking mess it up!
Oh god, it happens, don't it? But yeah, go on. Yeah, go on anyway.
I think he sort of like, he did that to give Willy Wonka more of a reason to be less trusting of parents to come and take over the factory. But yeah, I think it does mix well in the end. But yeah, if he were to do if he were to take loads more from the Great Glass Elevator, then that would just make such a long film. that's why Scott Pilgrim versus the World had to be, like, really condensed. Because, basically they had to squeeze 6 whole volumes
of stuff into it.
6 whole volumes into one film. And although I don't know why Scott Pilgrim's age was changed from 23 to 22.
I don't know. Just for no reason, I guess, but...
it's like... But there's quite a few things that actually weren't in the novels or the game, because, yes, it's a Scott Pilgrim versus the World game.
Bloody hell.
And there's things in the game that are in neither the books nor the film.
So they kind of, like, added a little bit more into it in some sense.
But the thing is, Brian Lee O'Malley worked on... was involved with all of these projects, so I'm thinking sometimes creators might want to
have their own sense in there as well.
They might want to take liberties with the source material so that they can add more to these different forms of media, I guess, so that they're not just carbon copies of each other.
Well,
because it's like, if you read the book of something, and then you go and see the film and it's like exactly the same and you get the exact same experience, then it's just like, I've just paid for the same thing twice and nothing new has been brought to the table.
And it kind of works in other ways as well. It's like recently I bought some more DVDs, like one, for example, is Gotham by Gaslight, it's basically a Batman story where it's a Victorian style Batman, right? And I've read the novel as well. I love the novel. That is pretty good. And with this, I was expecting it to be a kind of a shot-by-shot remake, like what they did with The Dark Knight Returns. You know, the original novel and the DVDs, right? Which they split into 2 parts. Mm-hmm. But no, they did something completely and utterly different. Like, they basically said, well, you've got the graphic novel, you've got your premise and everything. For this movie, we're going to go completely and utterly out of our way to make it not like the novel. As in, it's still Victorian-style Batman, but it's something completely different. And I say, good, you know what I mean? At least it's something totally different. It's kind of like, it's got its same beats it goes through the same beats as the novel, but it basically decides, you know, everything you know about the novel, complete lie. This is the true version, if you know what I'm saying.
I don't know. Maybe it's just like alternate ways of telling the story. Like, you know how you get 2 people who witness the same event, but one person might tell it slightly differently from the other.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I mentioned the live action Death Note earlier on.
Yeah.
It's like, loads of people were really annoyed about it because of the liberties that it took with the source material.
Yeah.
But I just see it as like an alternate story, because the anime and manga look at a Death Note falling in Japan and the Japanese kid called Light Yagami finding it. In the live action one, it all takes place in America. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Death Note falls in America, and an American kid called Light Turner finds it. Now, for some reason, he's got quite a similar life to Light. Like, he gets hunted down by the super detective L. But in the live action one, L's a black guy instead of a, like, lanky
teen, pretty much.
White guy.
Yeah, they're trying to dodge the racial bullet, I think. But go on.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what
well,
the
as
casting.
Long as I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm only saying
if they're good. I was going to say I'm not sure what the casting thing was about. I've not looked into it.
I think really.
It's like same basic story, but there are little differences. Like 2 people telling the same tale with different perspectives.
Yeah.
Which is why I say that I do think it's an enjoyable film if you can separate it from the main story. It's like it's an alternate story, isn't it?
I suppose really it's depending on the it depends on what they're trying to achieve with it. It's like a good example of this, which I've just literally thought of, was remember Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Michael Bay version? The way everyone was going... I haven't seen it, by the way, but from what reviews of it I've seen, it's like everyone was pissed at it and they knew that Michael Bay would try and F it up and all that, but it's kind of like people were going at that and all that, and yeah, anything that Michael Bay touches is going to turn into shite, let's be fair, because it's Michael Bay. But
I think it's more accurate to say anything Michael Bay touches will explode.
There's that too. But, and they say there's been numerous interpretations, like, obviously, like, things that have stuck around for so long, like Batman, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Transformers. Basically, it depends on the franchise and what they want to achieve with it. Like, there's been literally hundreds of versions of it, and each and every one tries something new. So it's kind of like you can't ever find the true definition of it, but it depends where they go with it in that sense. So, I don't know, you could have it like 10 different versions of Death Note, but again, it's a different interpretation, so maybe they might try on something new with it, or maybe they won't, but it really depends on what they're trying to achieve with it, I suppose.
Makes me wonder what kind of different things would happen in a Death Note game.
Well, that's something that might happen. You never know. All right.
Oh, man. Could you imagine a Death Note game in VR?
That would be terrifying.
Like you've got the book in one hand and a pen in the other. And you're playing as somebody who's got the Shinigami eyes, so you can, like, look at people and see you can see their names, you can see their lifespans, and you've got to, like, try and kill certain people without being detected.
That's actually pretty cool.
And, of course, the longer you go on in the game, the more targets you'll end up getting, like, for whatever reason. Of course, the Shinigami themselves can't and won't go around telling you who to kill, but, like, if somebody becomes suspicious of your actions, or if there's, like, somebody who's just, like, being a really evil bastard, or just somebody who stands in your way, then, yeah, you could go and try to kill them. But, oh, man, what if there was a bit where, like, the police and the army all come in, and they're all trying to get you, and you're just there, like, trying to avoid gunfire and everything, scribble down all these names in your Death Note, and then just survive for 40 seconds so that you can just watch them all drop down.
That would be insane.
Jeez, it would turn from a sneaky game of, like, spy versus spy, or, like, something really stealthy like Metal Gear Solid, into the way I usually play GTA, cause as much trouble as I can, and then see how long I can survive the resulting chaos.
Alright then. Well, I've got you another one then, you know, when it comes to adaptations. How about stuff that didn't start off as something, let's say, like a book or TV show or something? We'll go into more urban legend kind of territory. Like, as we speak right now, the Slender Man movie is going to be coming up at some point as well. And
so that's a movie adaptation of an urban legend.
Yeah, and the way that
has happened before.
Like, how? Well, which one exactly?
Well,
then
haven't
again,
there been?
that was a novel. Like,
okay, I'm pretty sure there's been, like, movie adaptations of things like The Boogeyman.
Something that's had a lot of impact, I mean, like, when people think back at creepypastas or something, they always think Slender Man, and the amount of times he's in a bloody fanfiction or something. But from what I've seen of the comments, people are saying, oh, it's not scary, it looks so fake, it looks so silly, and I've watched reviews of people saying, you know, they find it a bit baffling that it's going to they're just dropping a movie on people, like that, pretty much, in 2018. And it's like, okay, yeah, alright, whatever. I mean, I'm not a fan of Slender Man. I've never read any of his stuff, but even I'm like, should I give it a try or not? But I'm not sure, because from what I've seen of the trailer and that, it looks like it's going to go through every horror trope you can imagine. And it's just like, well, are you going to just give us that Slender Man is this mysterious force? Or are you just going to say he's a slasher? Which he's not supposed to be, but go on anyway. It's
I think with a Slender Man film, it would be... Well, okay, I've played a bit of Slender Man, and I tell you, a lot of the fear that comes from the game is... It's like, you know that he's going to come and get you. But you don't know when, and you don't know where he is. So, I think a really good way to pull this film off would be to, like, bring in a lot of fear of the unknown. Try to make... It's like, it's not, oh, you see a slasher, oh my god, I'm supposed to be scared because he's coming and he's going to kill people. You should make people afraid of what's not there.
Well, from what I've seen in the trailer, they're showing him off as much as possible, so I doubt that that's going to happen. But it's early days yet, we'll see anyway. But it's kind of like,
that's part of why the first Paranormal Activity worked so well. It's like you knew something was going on in that house.
Yeah.
But you couldn't quite tell what.
Well, the thing is with Paranormal Activities, the first one, from what I remember, is that they give you subtle hints about it, but in a lot of these kind of movies, they just try and show off so much that it just kind of loses its appeal very quickly. I mean, I remember me and my cousin watching the first Paranormal Activities, scared the absolute shite out of both of us. And I think to myself, that was effective in its simplicity. And yeah, you get a lot of these really convoluted ones where it's just like, we'll show off as much as possible to try and get the scares out of people rather than try and build something up, in a way. It's weird. It's like, I'm trying to think what other ones was there. It was like, I'm trying to remember. You carry on a sec, I'm just trying to remember something. I can't even remember.
Yeah, but this whole thing of dumping a Slenderman film on us, that brings us back to why do adaptations happen. One of the big reasons I can think of is just to make money.
Well, there's that as well, or trying to capitalise on the popularity. Like, believe it or not, guess who nearly got a movie about 3 or 4 times? Jeffy Boy, everyone's favourite Yorkshireman.
People you've got to be fucking kidding me.
Yep, I'm not joking, people. Jeff the Killer nearly had a movie several times until people woke up and thought, no, this is bollocks, we are not funding this. But that didn't stop all the fanboys and girls trying to get a Kickstarter going with it.
Oh, God.
I'm not fucking joking, and I'm just like, it's never gonna work. What part of it's never going to work don't you people get? It's a horrible story, and it deserves to disappear.
Okay, well, you've been talking quite a bit about these really bad adaptations, so you know what?
Let's try and bring it up a bit.
What is your favourite adaptation?
That is a good question, actually. I mean, it really depends on the tone as well. The tone, the spectral shift, things like that, really. It's like, I'm trying to... Oh, I'll have to get back to you on that one, because I really don't...
Shift? What?
I don't know, I'm using words that I don't understand again.
This could take a while.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna...
Yeah, you go ahead. I'm just going to try and think what would be a good one.
You know what? My favourite adaptation, I'm gonna have to give it to Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. It's like, there's so many different versions of it. It's like, started as graphic novels, then it became a movie, then it became a game. And every single time that I look through these things, I always see something new. Brian Lee O'Malley is just absolutely amazing at what he does, and it was a stroke of genius bringing in Edgar Wright for the film.
Yeah, get the original creator in, so at least they can really, really put their work to the test in that sense. Really,
I prefer the graphic novel version of Scott Pilgrim to the film version, because I don't know, Michael Cera just makes Scott Pilgrim seem like really whiny, whereas originally Scott's like, he's quite cynical. It's like the movie Scott Pilgrim is just like, my life sucks, woe is me.
Yeah.
Where the original one is just like, my life sucks. Assholes need to stop making my life suck.
Well, I suppose really it kind of brings me on to another kind of adaptation in that sense. It's like it was something I did in my college days where it was kind of it's this thing that I tried to do for a review of the 60s Batman, right? Because when that came out, it was like it got printed into graphic novels, right? And they're both like, I've got the original TV show on DVD at home, and I've also got the graphic novels. And I think to myself, there's this thing called expansion versus extension, as I call it. Anyway, it's kind of like, if it was an expansion, it would have been to build up the Adam West version of Batman's character and all this, that, and the other, and have a more in-depth version of the world, but it's not. It's more of an extension of the original TV series, so they don't need all the complicated details. So in a way, it's kind of like, you think to yourself, is this an extension or an expansion of various things? So let's get on to remakes, because in a way, they're kind of an adaptation of things like games, movies, stuff like that. Like, one of my favourite games for the PS1 is Medieval, with Sir Daniel Fortescue and all that. And at this point, again, at the time of this recording, the remake hasn't been given any details of what it's going to be, right? But I have a theory. They say it's going to be a remaster, like, of the original game. But that's only by word only, being a remaster, I'm putting in quotation marks. But I reckon it's going to be until I see more evidence, it's going to be, I hope it's a remaster, but I'm thinking it could be a remake of the remake that was put onto the PSP. So I think to myself, it's kind of like, will they keep the original spirit of the game? Or is this going to be something completely different in a sense? And it kind of works both ways. It's kind of like, sometimes you can hit lightning, like lightning can strike twice, but very rarely in that sense, really. I mean, do I even need to get onto movie remakes half at time? I mean, they seem to be remaking everything these days.
I was hoping that you would have come up with your favourite adaptation by now.
Oh, right, yeah, I'm still working on that. I don't know, it's kind of like, I suppose, really, if I were to choose one, it could be Batman for the time being, but I'm still working on that because I haven't really thought of this. And in a way, the Batman series has had every adaptation under the sun. Game, movie, graphic novels, pretty much everything, right? But you always find something new whenever you look into it. Like, I mean, okay, if you really look into it, a lot of the times the continuity makes no sense. But depending on what version you're looking at, you can enjoy it for what it is. Like Arkham City, the Arkham series, from Origins all the way up to Night. I've played all 4 games. I've got the graphic novels, and even a couple of novels that are based on the canon in that sense of the games, but there are a couple of flaws here and there, but you can't let them go. But it's kind of like, when you study all this up, it's like, yeah, it makes sense. There are a few things that kind of, you're just like, no, that didn't happen, or something like that. But I do love it because it hits all the marks. It's like, games, possible movies, because there's a lot of animated ones that DC did in that universe. You got the novels, you got the graphic novels as well, that all build into this one big story in that sense. And I think it kind of hits all the marks, not all the way, but I still love it because it explains a lot, and it's kind of one of the definitions of that version in a way. It's weird.
Okay, so what about your least favourite? What adaptation do you really despise?
Oh god, this is going to be funny as all movie remakes nearly. And I'm not even going to specify which one, because I know I will get a lot of hate, and it's kind of overdone in every sense of the word.
Go on, live a little.
The 2016 Ghostbusters. There, I said it. I had to. Sorry, I don't care. It's one of those things that...
Why are you apologising for your opinion?
I don't know, but... Because I know for a fact I will be dogpiled by literally every fanboy, feminist, and every arsehole imaginable if I didn't. But...
I don't know. I mean, as long as you have justifiable reasons for not liking the remake, I don't think people are going to be quite so quick to anger.
Well, let's find out, because I'll put it this way. I am not a massive fan of Ghostbusters, the original, right? I love it. I think it's a great movie. Love every minute of it. Love the actors. Love everything, right? But I'm not one of these mega nerds that are just like, he didn't do this, he never did that, or whatever. I'm not a nitpicker like that for it. I find it a really enjoyable movie. And that's it. I love it, and that's it. You know what I mean? And the main reason I hate the remake so much is the fact that everybody and their grandmother basically attacked everything around it rather than addressing the real problems itself, right? I have nothing against the actresses or any of that. I just hate the director. The director is a man-child. He is everything he basically... tried to describe the fan base as. So, there you are. And everyone trying to shove this whole agenda down people's throat about it was completely for nothing. The movie sucked. End of. That's it. And if that makes me the worst person in the world, so be it.
I don't think it's going to make you the worst person in the world. It's not like you're going around eating babies or anything like that.
Well, according to all those mega fans and all the other arseholes out in the world, I am, because I didn't like the movie. That's it. Literally, I hated every minute of it, and that was it.
Now, okie dokie.
There you are.
Now let's move on to my least favourite adaptation. Yeah, this is one that's going to come out of left field. Right. My least favourite adaptation of anything is...
What? I'm giving you a bit of a bloody drum roll here.
Is that really necessary?
No, but go on.
That just threw me off.
Worth a try, right. Sorry.
Did you ever see this... You ever see this TV show called VIP starring Pamela Anderson?
No, I haven't actually. Never
heard
of it.
But... it was on ages ago. It's not the most intellectually challenging thing in the world, but...
Well, it's got Pamela Anderson in, mate, so... Nah,
there was a bit of action in there. Of course, with Pam being in there, was a bit of titillation.
Of course, a bit.
But, yeah, it's like... I wouldn't say I was the biggest fan of the show, but it was alright.
Yeah.
But there was a PS1 game.
Oh, God, really?
Yeah.
Oh, and God.
It treats itself like an action game, but really it's just like you go through a bit of an in-game cutscene, then some enemies appear, then you push buttons as the prompts appear, like kind of like quick time events.
Oh, is it like that Charlie's Angels thing that the AVGN did? Or am I thinking something else entirely?
No. Charlie's Angels had a bit more action to it.
But this one
only a bit.
Nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Charlie's Angels was the one where you could it's like smack people and climb up ladders and the camera would just be focusing on your arse. But yeah, you can't do any...
Bring that out as a PS4 remake. Sorry.
You can't do any of that in the VIP game. It's like you just push some buttons, you automatically run to the next bit, then push some more buttons, and your reward for beating the levels is movie clips from the TV series.
Wow.
It's just like,
congratulations.
You know what? It's like you'd be getting people to be like, oh, hey, I saw this bit on TV. Oh, this is awesome. But I was just like, I saw this bit on TV, and I didn't have to go through a lackluster version of DDR to do it.
Wow. That sounds like a right classic in the making, doesn't it? I mean, it's one of those things where I think they didn't take any liberties whatsoever, and it's just like, we had a TV show, let's put it in another form, buy it, done. And it's like, there's no passion, there's no like, heart thrown into it. Well...
yeah. I bet when I was talking about my least favourite adaptation, you thought I was going to say Snow White and the Seven Clever Boys.
But that's fucking hilarious, man. It's so freaking
hilariously bad.
Well, that's what I'm on about. It's so bad that it's hilarious. And again, if we were to go back to our original podcast, it's kind of like, yeah, they're so bad that they're hilarious. I mean...
at least it's not Peter Pan.
Let's put it this way. I'll throw in a little challenge here. Can anyone send us in the comments any of the Phoenix games or Midas Interactive that you've ever played, and then tell us what you think of it? Because I would be curious to find out if anyone's actually ever had a go at these. I mean, we've watched quite a number of them, and every one of them, we've been laughing our asses off at all of them, pretty much. They're just so hideous that it's amazing. Like, oh god, I've got one more. I got another adaptation actually that kind of makes me think, because I'm a huge player of Yu-Gi-Oh, and card games and stuff like that, right? And where do adaptations go in that sense? Because it's like the Yu-Gi-Oh movie, the very first one, is based on the series, but it's got such low scores and all that, and I think, why? And then when I think back to it, I think to myself, oh yeah, it didn't really make much sense. It was just... It's an extension of the card game, which is fine, and it introduces new cards, which is even better, but the problem is, in real life, these cards are horrible, so it's like, they're not even worth the money or anything, I mean, you get to watch the movie, which is great, but what you got for it, not really that great. But it's like, for example, Pokemon. Ah, there's a good one, right. Pokemon. Original game, then the series, right? When you really look back at it, the games are pretty fucked up. And they obviously removed quite a lot of that, Lavender Town, for the series and stuff like that, really. Because when you really think about it, a lot of elements in the original Pokemon games are pretty messed up when you think about it.
Although... The TV series does keep in the part about a Charmander apparently dying if its tail flame ever goes out.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, you know what I mean, when you see these adaptations and you think to yourself, what stays, what goes in that sense. Like, I mean, I don't know if it's real, well, obviously, I don't know if it's real or not, but the whole thing about Lavender Town, for example, the whole kids getting seizures and all this, that, and the other from it. I think to myself... obviously, they couldn't keep that in. Obviously, the original Japanese version of the music, and when I've actually listened to it on YouTube. It really does get that one bit of your ear that you wouldn't think. That right. When it feels like it is hurting in that sense. But it's weird, and I don't know. It's like I'm trying to think. But yeah, it's like, what stays, what goes, is what I'm saying. It's like, it's weird. And obviously there was other controversies, like, for example, the Electric Soldier Porygon episode.
Yeah, not really sure it's on the topic of adaptations, though.
Well, but what I mean is, what stays, what goes when it comes to adaptations. It's kind of like, you obviously have to keep the core story or core... pieces, but how do they transfer into other mediums or other languages, really? I mean, other cultures in that sense as well. It's weird. It's like...
Well, okay, if we're going to go into, different translations of the same things, or where you translate an English book to, for example, a Swedish TV show, then... We are going to be here for, another 4 hours.
All right. We'll keep it simple, but it's more just that it also depends, to transfer to English, for example, things from Japan or anywhere else in the world, there's always going to be changes. I mean, it kind of goes into censorship as well in some respects. Because, I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of like... I mean... You might have to help me out here, because I'm trying to explain it, because it's like, it can bobble into the regions of censorship, where certain things from Japan are not okay here in England or America, for example. Like, to go back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Again, for example, like the artwork on some of the cards has been heavily altered for English release, as opposed to the Japanese version. And only now can you actually get cards of the Japanese artwork in English. Only now, 2018 or so.
No, I think it was supposed to be intended for more of a grown-up audience, but of course over here the card game started appealing more to kids, so we did get things like the censorship of the Harpy Lady Sisters and Dark Magician Girl. And I don't play fucking Yu-Gi-Oh! Why do I know this?
I'm infecting you slowly but surely.
Well, stop it!
I can't
Piss
help
off!
It's one of those things. I just can't help doing it. Tentacle porn, man. It's like tentacle porn without the actual tentacle porn bit. I don't know what I'm talking about. Shall we cut this?
I never know
what you're
talking about.
Shall we just cut this bit?
Well, yeah, the time is dragging on, but there is one last point that I made for notes for media adaptations.
Go on.
Why are boobs so fascinating?
I have no idea in the slightest.
Actually, I just wrote that one down as a joke for sending the picture of the notes to Jake. Maybe we'll go into this topic sometime, but now is not that time.
We have to wait till post-Watershed before we can do that. Now
is time for pub.
Pub? Alright, well, shall we make a quick summary then, or something like that very quick? Like, well, so in a way, it's kind of like adaptations are important, but only if they're handled correctly in that way. It's kind of like, as if you're going to make something and adapt it into something else for a different or broader audience, what stays, what goes, and how do you keep the spirit alive in that sense, really?
Yeah, it's like when you adapt a book to a movie, of course there are things that are going to be changed because, well, okay, let's look at Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. That had to be split into 2 films. Mm-hmm. It's like there are some books where you can get away with cutting out a few things in order to fit it nicely into a feature-length film, but sometimes there's just so much detail that you have to split it up a bit.
Do you hear that? I hear Lord of the Rings calling. 3 hours a piece, mate. 9 hours for the whole lot, remember? And on top of that, the Hobbit movies as well.
Now, anyway,
yeah,
I believe that a media adaptation is rather... You've got to find like a nice recipe for it. It's like, yeah, you get all of your ingredients, like a good director, you got your source material, what liberties you can take, your actors.
Yeah.
Of course, the music.
Yeah, that always helps.
But if you mismatch these ingredients or use too much or too little of something, then it's going to have problems, and the fans are going to pick up on it.
All I can say is, I imagine in the alternative world, if Tommy Wiseau was ever given director's rights to another Dragon Ball Z movie, can you imagine what lunacy would take over from that?
Oh, have you seen his tweets about him being a Joker?
Oh, I think I heard about this report.
That would sound awesome, though.
That sounds incredible. I would prefer... How about that YouTube video you sent me that time of him as Batman? That would be incredible to watch. I want to watch that again.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you know what? Right, here's what I have to say about media adaptations. Everything needs Tommy Wiseau.
That would be incredible. 50 Shades of Grey, Tommy Wiseau, get in there, mate.
50 Shades of Johnny!
50 Shades of Wiseau. Tommy Potter and the Room of Doom. Indiana was so.
No.
Oh Christ! Imagine just with Greg
Tommy
Sestero.
Potter and the game of football.
No, Tommy Potter and the roof set of Doom.
It's like that bit where bloody Hermione is just like, it's pronounced Leviosa, not Leviosa. You got Tommy that's like, it's pronounced I did not.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Mark.
It's Leviosa. Oh, hi, Mark. Well, that just... don't know he's playing Hermione.
You got Ron being like, it's Leviosa, not Leviosa. God, she's a proper nightmare. No wonder she's not got any friends. Just imagine Tommy Wiseau would be like, it is not Leviosa. It's not true. It's bullshit. It is not Leviosa. It is not.
Oh, hi, Ron.
Oh, hi, Hagrid.
Oh, hi, Ron.
It would be fantastic.
Oh, God. I'm just trying to think, but yeah, that would be incredible. Like, I suppose in a way it's kind of, imagine making a proper spoof of things like that, pretty much. Like, just joking about with it. I'm trying to imagine more, I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. We're so bloody doing that kind of stuff. That would be incredible. That would pay for the ticket right there and then, mate.
Yeah.
Anyway, God damn.
I do believe that is it for this edition, because I may not be a religious man, but the church house is calling me.
The church house, the pub house, you know.
Yeah, the church house is the name of a pub. Just clearing it up.
Yeah, a little bit of a plug for the guy. Yeah, I mean, for the guy who runs it. Because we love you. There you go.
Anyway, I have been DJ.
And I have been Jake.
And we have been talking bollocks.
Oh, God.
See, it works.
It works. We should put a hashtag with it or something.